Welcome, good evening, welcome everyone to our May 16th regular council meeting, and it's 7:05. If we can all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready, begin. If we can all remain standing for a moment of silence for our first responders and military members, please. Thank you. Roll call, please.
Roll call, Councilmember Roth,
Present.
Councilmember Mann,
Present.
Councilmember Soto,
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Samra,
Present.
Mayor Moran.
Present.
For the record, all council members, Mayor Pro Tem and Mayor are in attendance.
In regards to closed session, direction was given to staff on both items. Council, are there any changes to the agenda? Seeing none, moving forward. Next, we have citizen comments. This section of the agenda allows members of the public to address the City Council on any item not otherwise on the agenda. Members of the public, when recognized by the mayor, should come forward to the lectern and identify themselves. Comments are normally limited to 3 minutes. In accordance with state open meeting laws, no action will be taken by the City Council this evening. For items which are on the agenda this evening, members of the public will be provided an opportunity to address the City Council as each item is brought up for discussion. Any citizen comments on the phone? Any comments in the chamber?
Good evening. My name is Barbara Ratzlaff. I live on Main Street in Livingston. And I have a concern on Facebook that some things are being printed. And I know this is public record, so I'm asking the attorney or whomever. Catherine Shell Rodriguez, who is your treasurer, is posting things that somewhat bothers me because it's some of the information that comes from here. And of course, like I say, it's public record, and she has the right to do this. But some of them, to me, are a little more than I feel comfortable posting it. Now, when I was on the council a long time ago, and city treasurer, when I went through the warrants and drafts and whatever, if there were questions, I would go to the city manager right away and answer and get an answer or whatever. Maybe I liked it or maybe I didn't. But I think Catherine probably, because she used to come to the meetings and ask these questions. And like I say, it's public record. I know it's nothing personal from her, and she excludes that. But my question is why, and if something can be done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Council. Rodrigo Espinoza, wearing my personal hat. I just want to say that I'm going to run for re-election, announcing my re-election for my campaign, and I hope to have your support here in the city of Livingston from the council. I know that it's been a fast 2 years, 2.5 years already, and I got all this years left, plus another year. And I was hesitating on running, but people keep pushing me to continue at least one more time. So hopefully, like I said, I think I have the community support, my district support, and a lot of other people that have wished me well. And of course, in politics, nothing is 100% perfect, and we're not liked by everybody, just like normal. So we have to deal with hurdles. But like I said, with the last, all this disaster in the past, flooding, I think people have noticed that, like I said, or the last 7 years, this is my 7th year on the Board of Supervisors, and I think I've gained a lot of people's trust, and we're doing a great job, and hopefully we'll like I said, keep on improving the whole county, especially Livingston here where I live, and I share, this city with you guys, and so hopefully we'll keep improving the city of Livingston and then all over Merced County. As you know, it's not an easy task to be in politics, and so we have to deal with a lot of the public. But like I said, we have to learn to adapt to all the circumstances that come and onto us. So I've been here shorter than the Mayor Pro Tem has been here a couple years longer than I have, and together, like I said, we have worked together along with a lot of citizens in this community to improve Livingston. So hopefully, like I said, with your support, we'll continue making our lives better here in Livingston. So thank you very much. That's all my comments.
Thank you. Is there any additional public comment in the chamber? Okay, seeing none, we're moving forward. Next, we have awards and presentations. For first item, we have presentation. We have the proclamation recognizing National Public Works Week. And nice of you, Anthony, to be here today. Well, he's always here anyway, so it's good. Proclamation of the Mayor of the City of Livingston, California. And whereas public works professionals focus on infrastructure, facilities, and services that are of vital importance to sustainable and resilient communities and to the public health, high quality of life and well-being of the people of the City of Livingston. Whereas these infrastructure, facilities, and services could not be provided without the dedicated efforts of public works professionals who are engineers, managers, and employees at all levels of government and the private sector, who are responsible for rebuilding, improving, and protecting our nation's transportation, water supply, water treatment, and solid waste systems, public buildings, and other structures and facilities essential for our citizens. And whereas it is in the public interest for the citizens, civic leaders, and children in the City of Livingston to gain knowledge of and maintain a progressive interest and understanding of the importance of public works and public works programs, their respective communities. And whereas the year 2023 marks the 63rd annual National Public Works Week, sponsored by the American Public Works Association and Canadian Public Works Association, be it now, therefore, be it resolved that the City of Livingston City Council does hereby designate the week, May 21st to the 27th, 2023, as National Public Works Week. We urge all citizens to join with representatives of the American Public Works Association and government agencies in activities, events, and ceremonies designed to pay tribute to our public works professionals, engineers, managers, and employees, and to recognize the substantial contribution they make to protecting our national health, safety, and quality of life. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Public Works, our sincere thanks, and keep up the good work. Council, any word from anybody? Say a few words.
Yeah, of course. What the Public Works does, not just for Livingston, but at other districts, other agencies, and state and federal level, and make it possible for us to get out of our house and out of our driveway. If it wasn't for them, you know, it would be difficult. Even on the old Roman days, cobblestones were set up by Public Works too, you know, so it's a long history, you know. Water and everything else is through Public Works, and sometimes it's difficult for us to not understand, or not understand, but not fully appreciate what everything is done, because everything is usually taken for granted. We turn on the faucet, water comes down, we do something, and water is gone, and there's a whole bunch of people from Public Works at different levels that make that happen. So I think they're usually underappreciated.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Anybody else?
Yes, Mayor. I honestly want to really thank you all, and for how knowledgeable you all are, honestly. And for me, the biggest thing is how responsive you guys are and how quickly everything gets taken care of. So just thank you very much.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Yes, my fellow council members pretty much said a lot, but I just want to thank you all. You guys do a great job. Anthony, I just messaged you this weekend about an issue, and as always, you jumped on it from past, present. You guys are awesome. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Everyone's looking my way, so I better comment, right? I just want to thank the Public Works Department, as without you, many things in our city would become unnoticed. But you do take lots of pride, and we're really proud of our departments as they move through certain transitions and people working well together. That's what we want in order for our city to move forward with all its infrastructure and all the needs that need to be met. So thank you.
Thank you very much. And I know that our residents really appreciate your department's hard work along with everybody else. But the most calls that I get are related to your department. So I know that the residents really appreciate you guys' work, and along with the engineers department, and hopefully our sidewalks won't fall apart in 20 years, but we trust you guys. Thank you guys, appreciate it. All right, next. Want to say something, Anthony? No, you good? You good? All right. Next, we have item number 2, presentation by Stephanie Fujimura, Principal and Senior Architect, and this is in regards to the Livingston Recplex.
Gotcha.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Thank you guys so much for taking the time today in your busy night to learn a little bit more about the Recplex and a little bit more about us. I realize that a lot of you are either new to your position or things have shifted and don't really know who I am or who Dolan is or what role we're playing for you on the Recplex. So I'm going to do a little bit of introductions to start us off. Who Dolan is, who I am with Dolan, and our role on the project in working with your team and Jackie and Christopher there. And then we'll get to the project itself and kind of where we are and next steps.
Can you do me a favor? Can you get the mic closer to you?
Oh, yes,
And then
absolutely.
that way people can hear you online.
Is that better?
Yes, much
Okay.
better. Thank you.
Okay, so my name is Stephanie Fujimura. I'm one of the principals at Dolan Group. So Dolan Group is a firm of about 200 people. We're spread out over 8 offices on the West Coast. We're primarily an architecture, interiors, and planning firm. So we've been around since about 1976, so 45-ish years at this point, and we really focus on creating spaces and places for the community, whether it is housing or, in my case, I really focus on public buildings, so community centers, aquatic centers, senior centers, recreation centers, like what you have going for your Recplex now. Along with my team, I've got Erica and Kyle, who Erica is the project manager and architect, and Kyle's our job captain. And then we're working with Jackie and Christopher, and Monica's helping us out as well to make sure that this process goes smoothly. So we've worked with approximately 80 municipalities, cities, parks districts throughout the years in creating these spaces. We take two roles, really. We've worked on the design side as the design architect of record, where we get to design the facilities, help you document them, get them built out in the field, and watch it open. And then the second role is what we're playing for you on this project, which is a project management role. A lot of times this happens for cities or districts where you guys are short-staffed, or you have a project that requires special knowledge and skills that your staff on hand just isn't used to accommodating. So it happens a lot in smaller cities or districts where most of what you guys do is parks, and all of a sudden you have the money to do a bigger facility. So instead of trying to have your public works engineer manage a process of a building where they're used to doing streets, a lot of cities will bring in a project manager like myself to guide that process. So these are some of the responsibilities that we take on as project management. So really, we become an extension of Jackie's team here. We're gonna lead the process for you from day one and looking at your budget, looking at your schedule, making sure everything jives. Our value really comes in and stands where we stand apart from other project managers is because we have that architectural expertise. We can also complete the initial feasibility studies. So one of the things that's really important when we're starting a project is to do our homework, right? The last thing we want is surprises down the road. So we spend some time doing the front-end feasibility, understanding our budget, understanding whether a conceptual design can fit in, and our program and priorities can fit in what we think, understanding what's under the ground, things you can't see, fault lines, PG&E lines, gas lines, things that require setbacks, easements, for example, where we want to make sure that we are building and we are planning for things that can actually be built and we have no surprises. The second part of that is cost management. So understanding what our budget is, understanding where our priorities align with the budget as we're moving forward. So then, this is just kind of a quick roadmap of where we would go from there. So we would do initially a kickoff to understand the programming, do our cost estimate and project schedule, and then really our job is to bring on a design team for you to do the rest of the design, documentation, go and get your permits, and then get out to the field and build the project. So we were actually brought on by your previous city manager in August of 2022 with the goal of being project manager for your Recplex building. So this is a new project for you that is very exciting. It's going to be the first one of the cities in quite a bit that is geared towards the community and recreation and providing multi-purpose courts and community spaces for your town. So the process as we move forward is going to be as shown. So first we do the pre-design, validation of the current program, the design and the budget, as I mentioned earlier, and then we will be working with Jackie and her team to select a design team. So putting out that formal RFP to attract a design team and then getting them under contract. And then as the design progresses, we'll be the liaison between the city staff and that design team. Because we have a good understanding of how the process works, we can keep that design team in line where they need to be and make sure that they are hitting all the milestones that they need to hit for a successful project. As they finish up documentation and get their permits, we'll assist with putting this out to general contractor bid, full public bid process, And then as we move through construction, our team will be helping Jackie as the city's representative in the field, and also coordinating with your construction manager to ensure everything is brought to fruition the way it needs to be. And then post-construction, making sure all the closeout materials and all the maintenance items and all of the punch list items are taken care of at the end of the day. So let's talk about the Recplex project itself. So in 2021, at the end of 2021, City of Livingston was awarded funding by Prop 68 for this Recplex renovation. As part of that application, Jackie and her team completed over 8 community outreach meetings to determine what programming was really needed for your city and where the priorities really laid. So with COVID in the past 2 years, we are lucky that the state extended the grant deadline to June of 2028. So overall, the budget for the project per the grant is just shy of $7.4 million, and you can see the breakdown there. So I'm not sure how many of you are familiar with the site. So this is the existing site. We're about a 25,000 square foot warehouse on a 35,000 square foot lot. So this is the old Livingston Farmers Association building that was purchased. Along with that site, which is going to be that building, which will end up being the Recplex, we also have the existing empty lot across the way for parking, and that's about 11,300 square feet. And then you've got the empty lot to the northwest there that is going to be open space, and that is just about an acre. So we're bounded by C Street up north, D Street at the bottom, and then you can see 6th Street, and then 7th Street, which will likely, we're working on to see whether or not we want to close off that street. That is going to be something that your planning team and public works team is talking about as well. So based on the Prop 68 program priorities and bubble diagrams that were part of that application, the Dolan team then went and put together a conceptual design. So this is part of doing our homework. We want to make sure all the program priorities fit. So we are looking at the main building, the warehouse building there, being renovated. It'll include sports courts, multi-purpose courts, teen center, senior center, and kitchen activities. And then you can see top right there on the slide, there is the open park that we talked about with restroom facilities, splash pads, ninja course. That was the goal. So looking at the building, we went ahead and we laid out the building as well, just to make sure all of our priorities fit. If for some reason they could all fit on a smaller square footage, then we would rearrange things. But based on the priorities, we ended up with about 13,600 square feet of multi-purpose court and rec space. You can see on the left in the darker green color, I'm going to call it, that is going to be your teen and senior areas. And then the yellow there is that multi-purpose space. And then on the right-hand side there is a little bit more of that community space. So we're looking at flexible classroom spaces in the light purple that can be divided. So you can use it for multi-purpose, and you can use it for different activities and different programs, along with a lounge. And then far right, new restrooms, a conference room, and a smaller active multi-purpose room as well. And then at the bottom there in the blue, you'll see full kitchen and concessions area. The goal is that it can serve both events in that main recreation hall, but also serve as a concession stand. It can serve as food for those who are there over the weekend, with a spill-out space for picnic areas on the south of that building there. So this initial conceptual design really was based around input from Jackie and her team of how they would use this, how it could operate, maximizing flexibility, and also taking a look at ways to maximize revenue. So this for us was the basis of the homework. We now know what we need to get in there, and we are then taking it through cost estimating. So that is where we are now. So we are at step 1, pre-design and refining the RFP. So of the homework that we needed to do, it was site validation, program validation, and now cost validation. So we are in the process of having our cost estimator run the numbers on the conceptual design that was shown. We are going to spend the next week or two, once we get it back, validating those numbers, making sure that everything is in balance before we put out for RFP. The goal is to post RFP for the design team end of this month, beginning of next month, and then have that firm selection authorized by council August of this year, and then get them running. So they would start conceptual design Q4 of this year, looking about a year of documentation to get into the building department and permitting, with bidding towards the end of next year, and then project construction late 2024 into 2025. So that was a lot that I just threw at you in a very short period of time. So that is where we currently are. We're very excited to get this project moving. We think it's going to be a fantastic project for the city. It's going to be kind of a once-in-a-lifetime project for you guys here, and it's going to be amazing. So we're excited to get that RFP out and move on to next steps. And I'm happy to take any questions if anyone has any.
Can you go back to the one previous slide? I think you mentioned, and I just want to clarify, step number 7, project construction, is that December, I think you said December 24
Yeah.
to 25,
Yep.
but that's 26, I just wanted to.
It'll be
be-
more than a year of
Okay, for construction, okay.
Right, so this is likely, with the
Just
park
to
component,
start.
going to be, 12 to 16 months, somewhere in there,
Yeah,
of
okay.
construction.
All right.
Yeah.
And then, can you go back
Sure.
to the breakdown of the amounts?
This?
Yes.
Sure.
So after so the 4.1, that's for the renovation. I mean, realistically?
That is why, that's
we-
why we have, so the 4.1 was originally, I believe the cost estimate was originally done in 2021. So we all know how the economy's been since
Yeah.
then. That is something that our cost estimator has taken into account. So we're waiting for that final number to come back. Once that comes back, if it is over budget, over that $4.1 million that we're targeting, then Jackie and I are going to sit down and we're going to start kind of prioritizing, looking at what our options are. If there are additional funding options, great, but I don't want to count on those until we've got them. So what are our options at that point? We can look at phasing, we can look at installing portions of the project on day one and planning for the infrastructure of the second portions of the projects. The one thing that we do have to keep in account is making sure we fulfill all the terms of the Prop 68 grant. So whatever we had promised as part of Prop 68, we have to make sure we deliver on day one. So it'll be a process of going back and just kind of looking at things and determining what the priorities are and what our other options are for making sure we're close to that budget.
Okay. Any questions? Mayor? Yes, go ahead. Mayor Pro Tem?
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Fujimura. Thank you very much for your presentation. My prevision hasn't quite kicked in yet, but refresh my memory, how much was the Prop 68 grant?
7.4 million, just under
Okay,
7.4.
so when we,
7.39.
and Christopher, whoever wants to answer, I'm kind of not quite up to speed on this project. I know what the project is, of course, but what has been the DC's financial plans to, obviously, that's never going to be anywhere close to what we need. So what has been our funding mechanisms to see to fruition? What are our plans for financing?
So one of the big things, and Stephanie mentioned this, is that we won't have a better idea until we do that preliminary work that Stephanie mentioned. So at that point, when they do the preliminary work, and let's say everything that was imagined in the pre-work, if the pre-estimate comes back and says, hey, look, we're off by a couple $1 million, that's when it will have to get reevaluated to say, okay, what are the things that are required within Prop 68? What are the things that may need to be phased out in the future? Because one of the big things, and I know that Dallin and Jackie and I have talked about the fact that we don't want to create expectations and then have a gap. So what we want to do is be realistic with what the budget is, and then what we can reasonably accomplish with what the best estimates are at that time. Now, I will also add that the last 24 months, 36 months with construction, cost of materials, labor, everything has been just crazy. So we're hoping that that the estimate that we get on the front side right now will be kind of a better gauge as to what we may need to rescope so that we have a project that is feasible with the budget that we have, because the last thing we want to do is say that we have a gap of X amount of dollars and have a promise to the community that we cannot fulfill without additional funding. So we're very mindful of that.
Yeah, and the question again is, when this project started, and I'm all for the project, just so everybody knows, everybody's clear, okay? Just I gotta ask questions in my simple way so I can understand, is at one time we obviously have the budget listed, what we anticipated to be at that time. I get it, costs have gone up, and I'm sure that's not gonna be it, you know? So was there ever an original plan how to fund the whole thing? Was it, I'm sorry, I'm kind of a little behind. Maybe I'm asking the same question, I just don't quite understand it. Was it originally?
Stephanie can comment on that more specifically, but I can say that even when it comes to the CIP projects that we have with water TCP, at that moment in time when the city prepared some preliminary estimates, let's just say it came in at $5 million. We know that based on our last workshop that we hosted a few months ago, that cost is now exceeding, and I'm just going to throw out a number, $12 million. And so it's probably was based upon numbers and estimates at that time, but we all know that things have changed. But I think that's the real important part that Dahlon's doing to ensure that everything that gets put out for a proposal for an architect to design, and then construction is ultimately within that frame, because we know that things have changed. So maybe, Stephanie, you can talk about what that initial proposal was like.
Yeah, because in order for us to, from what I understand, my simplistic way of applying for grants, they do ask for what is your local funding sources. What was listed as a part of the application for the grant to list our local funding sources? What was listed at the time? I'm sorry? There was no requirement for listed? Yeah, maybe that's why I was kind
Yeah,
of...
Prop 68 doesn't have a local funding requirement or a match requirement at all. It is, basically, the California Parks and Recs Department got a huge grant amount kicked down, probably about 6 years ago now. So they've gone through I think they're on their 5th funding cycle. So they accepted applications starting in 2010, I want to say. You guys were part of the funding cycle that was announced, or not
Yeah.
2010, I'm sorry, that is 2000, maybe 17-ish. And then you guys were part of, I believe, the 3rd or the 4th funding cycle
Yeah.
that came about. So there is no city promised funds, right? You guys aren't required to fund anything. This is strictly from the state.
Yeah, I understand, because originally, when we did apply, city was not funded at the time. Yeah, and it's my lack of total knowledge of the Prop 68 too. So in my mind, I was kind of quitting with our others when we applied for funding sources, be it through state, through whatever. Usually they ask for local matches or local funding sources. What are you going to? So that's what I was not quite understanding. So thank you very much.
Thank you for that. Anybody else? Before I go out to public comment? Jackie, you were raising your 2 hands.
So I just want you to know that I am already combing the websites for extra funding in the event that we need it. But I did want to let you know that in 2019, that we applied for the per capita grant, which I had completely forgot about. And when we acquired the Prop 68, the grant manager said, hey, are you ever going to turn in the the paperwork for your per capita because it was $177,000. So it came in at the perfect time, and it actually is going to fund the equipping of the commercial kitchen and all of the banquet needs so that we can provide, different kind of events at that. So we are looking, even if it's a few $100,000 at a time for something that we could apply for. I do know that when we wound up getting this grant, because of the building that's all gone up around the city, at that time, the only area that we could even qualify for a low-income grant was where that property is. And so it's not going to be an easy feat to try to find something that we don't have a big match on. So everybody just keep your eyes peeled, and hopefully, we can find the funding to make it if we come in, or if the estimate comes in where we need more money.
Thank you, Jackie. I know that I'm always sending you guys links and information about grants, so I'll keep them coming to you guys. So let me go out for public comment, and then I'll come back to the dais. Any public comment on this item? Any questions on the phone? Any additional questions or comments in the chamber? All right, bringing it back to the dais. Anything else, Council? Questions, comments? You're good? Well, thank you very much. We really appreciate it. Thanks for the update.
Guys.
Thank you. All right, next we have announcements and reports. Supervisor Rodrigo Espinosa.
Good evening, Council. I'm going to leave a couple of my flyers for Thursday night's town hall meeting in South Merced at Tenaya Middle School. So I'm going to drop it off with Monica. If you can please post them in front of City Hall wherever you can, and that way if the public wants to watch under Facebook, Merced County webpage, you guys can. So, get my notes here. Well, first of all, I'm just going to talk about the sister city. In 2002, I got elected, and then Gurpal Samra became the first elected mayor of Livingston. And in 2004, I was in the middle of my term, and I know as a 2-year term mayor, he was up for election along with the rest of the council, decided to run for mayor. And, it wasn't my turn as mayor to run they had a trip along with this high school and the middle school to do a trip to Japan, and I was fortunate that they sent me. So back in 2004. So it was a great time. The kids enjoyed, being able to go to the schools over there, and I ended up with a principal that spoke English, but I could barely understand him. So he probably liked my English too as well. So then we came back, and they were supposed to come back a year or two later, and then there was that time when there was a flooding in Japan, and there was a disaster, and all of a sudden another bigger city took over Wakami, and so that ended up the sister city. We've never heard from them again. I don't know. Jackie, did you ever hear? Oh, she left. Yeah, but Jackie, I don't know if she ever did anyway. So I had contact with Wakami, Japan again, and so in 2015, I was on my way to Mexico, and they invited me to Zapotlanejo, Jalisco. We have, I think, more than 100 residents in Livingston that come from that area, Jalisco, the state of Jalisco, and they invited me. Someone invited me to stop by and, as mayor, to the sister city in May 15 of 2015 to cut the ribbon for their festival they had on May 15th. And so I was fortunate. The mayor there received us very well. And I think the governor was there as well. So we met a lot of people, and we became friends. So they asked for us to become sister cities, and which you see the plaque there, Livingston, California, with the city of Zapotlanejo. But unfortunately, the mayor was out on his way out, and the new mayor came in, and we did our trade of plaques. We gave them the one from Livingston, and they gave us this one from that city. And because of the new mayor, they didn't get along with the old council, then nothing moved forward until now. I just got back last week from, I go every year. I have a chance because we made friends, and they invited me for a lunch. And the new president, the mayor, they call him presidential municipal president, the mayor over there. And the mayor is the brother of Canelo Alvarez, the boxer. He's also a boxer. I guess the family has a tradition of boxing. So he was very, very nice and attentive. And there was also a couple other council members that we were able to meet there. And so, of course, the business people, which were very friendly. And actually, that same year, we invited them back in 2015, and they were here for 4th of July, the Sweet Potato Festival back then. And I think it was the 4th of July as well. And so they came here. We gave them a tour of the Gallo plant, Yosemite, and San Francisco. So they 4 or 5 days. And so, but that stayed, and nothing ever happened. I know that along with Alex, former council member Alex McKay, we went in 2017 and to my hometown as well. He wanted to know my hometown, and also we stopped there, along with another city of Jalos, Itlan, which is called Jalos, about an hour and a half away. And there was a resident there that works for the city, and he was a resident in Livingston and went to high school here in Livingston. So he also invited the city to become sister cities with Carlos, but nothing ever moved forward, because I know, everybody was invited to become sister cities, as well as my hometown, Uruapan, Michoacan, the avocado capital of the world, which is about 400,000 people. Next to my hometown. That's not, next. I call it my hometown because everybody knows Uruapan, nobody knows my little town, and a little bit smaller than Livingston. And so nothing moved forward, and so this year, last year I went, but the new mayor, being so popular, the brother of the boxer, he was very busy, came in, and so he didn't have, he wasn't able to have a lunch with us. So, but this time he was invited, and he was able to meet us, and then so he would like to move forward and apply for through Sister City International and become all legit, legal, and so we would have to apply as well. That time we didn't follow through on all the legal process that it takes with Sister City International, so they would like to move forward, and they asked if they wanted to be able to come, but of course it has to have a small budget for them to come in. We probably house them in a hotel, like they housed us in the past with Wakami or other cities, and it's been a while. And so I know that Jackie, she's not back yet, has gone through that as well. So she'll probably fill you guys more in on what it takes. So they asked me if the mayor, I told them I would talk to the city council and the mayor, and if they'd be willing to put that in the budget, and if they can come, and then they would also invite whoever from the council would like to go over there. So part of Sister City International is to, the trade, the friendship, and also take business people to know the area. So that's what Sister City International is, for the friendship. So I'll leave that up to you guys. And if you have any questions, you'd be glad to answer any questions as well on that. Another one, so I left the town hall flyers here this Thursday at 6 p.m. at Tenaya Middle School. And so in case you guys want to watch it or come down to, I'll be glad to, the address is on there as well. And also Lloyd Pereira, District 4 Supervisor, will have his tomorrow. in the Delhi Shandel School. In case anybody wants to watch it or attend, I'll probably be attending that one as well. So I know that, we're trying to promote it as much as we can, and I know some of my friends and cannabis friends will be visiting me over there, I heard, so no problem. Also, I asked for an update from our Public Works, and he said that the bids are out for the road projects. Hopefully before June, they'll be awarding the bids, so that way we can move forward on fixing the roads here in Livingston, Lincoln Boulevard, Peach, and Magnolia, and a few other ones as well. I know I get calls about Peach all the time. So, and also I know that you have the MCAG contract agreement with MCAG. So hopefully you guys, make a wise decision on what you guys want to do. I think every city has already approved it except Livingston. Is that, attorney? Do you know that? I think they have, right?
I think that's correct, yeah.
Okay, thank you. And also under Water Education for Latino Leaders, I'll be doing a tour of the Colorado River. I was invited, and there's a water district from Southern California that would be paying for the flight from Fresno for, I think, about 30 or 40 electeds from around the state to go there. I don't know if the mayor, did you ever get the invite? Probably because you haven't gone through the well and tap session, right? So I know that if any of you would like to become a well members, you guys can. So hopefully we learn a lot. And of course, being that the Colorado River was very dry, and now with all this rain, it'll be a lot nicer. But also, just like I said, just to learn about what the Colorado entails and how many people it feeds with our water. So that'll be a good session. That'll be from June 2nd through the 4th, and we'll be heading to Vegas, and from there we'll probably look at the Lake Mead and the dam over there and other areas. So that's all my comments. Unless you have any questions?
Council, any questions, comments? So I just want to say thank you for that information about the sister cities. I know that also yesterday, last couple of days, someone from Jalos, Jalisco, reached out to me and inquire about a similar process. So I will be asking Jackie to kind of provide some of that history information from the past, because I really don't know anything about it. And then I'm gonna probably look into what the process is. Yeah, to be able to learn more about that, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, she could probably look up the policies of Sister City International as we move forward. And I know many cities, bigger the cities, have a lot of sister cities around the world, and it just depends up to every council as elected, how many you guys want to visit or deal with them as well. So, or add any more. I know the last mayor wanted to become sister cities with Choricio, so I don't know where that is with you guys. So that's also a decision you have to make. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, we have city staff announcements and reports. Do we have any? No? None? Okay. City manager announcements and reports.
Excuse me, just a couple items from me, Mayor. I know that you'll probably speak in depth about the DC trip, One Voice trip, but I just wanted to say that I was very happy to see the mayor advocating for the city of Livingston, and then much more broadly, some of the other priorities that are very much priority to this council, but also to the city of Livingston and the broader Merced County. The Sheriff's Department did host a peace officer memorial event this morning, which was a really well put together event by the Sheriff's Department. It is National Police Week this week, so just wanted to give thanks and appreciation to all of our police officers, men and women of the Livingston Police Department, for everything that they do to keep the community safe. And then finally, Public Works Week, so just want to give my appreciation to the men and women that keep everything flowing in Public Works, as well as our engineering team. So much thanks. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. City Council, Mr. Mann.
Thank you, Mayor. Unfortunately, I I was not able to go to the Washington, D.C. One Voice trip due to illness, but I know that we're represented well with the city manager and mayor. I did really enjoy the training and preparation training sessions that we did go to, and I tried to help as best I could, but once again, I was unable to go. That concludes my report this time. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Councilmember Roth?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I did get to attend the National Day of Prayer at Memorial Park with Jackie. I also attended the pancake breakfast at the fire station and also the band review at the high school and helped out in their pizza booth. That's it, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Soto?
I just wanted to go back to city manager. I had a question. Just want to kind of piggyback off of what Ms. Rasloff had alluded to before. I noticed in the agenda, or maybe Moran can answer to this, being it's on the agenda. Item number 3 is a city treasurer's investment report. It's on the agenda. Can you explain what the purpose of that?
Okay, so legal, can you provide?
Because it is agendized, if we're going to discuss it out of order, then we need to make a motion to amend the agenda to discuss it now. Because the item is on the agenda, and so it either needs to be addressed at item 3 after all of the announcements and reports, or we need to amend the agenda to discuss it now.
Well, if we can move it to after our announcements and reports?
Yeah, I mean, it's already there.
Oh, it serves as a placeholder. I'm just thinking that's just a written physical item and not a discussion item.
It's still a discussion item.
Okay.
Because it's on the agenda, it still gets public comment, the council can still discuss it.
We didn't do that last time.
We did, I just don't think there was any discussion on it.
Oh, okay. Well, then I'll go on with my report. In addition to May, or this month, with all the other presentations, it is also Mental Health Awareness Month. So it's a subject that many people don't want to discuss because it is quite delicate. But I am truly an advocate for those that seek help and services and want resources. And I know that I had brought this to the attention when we discussed budgeting for the next fiscal year. But we do need more, not just to create the awareness, we need to actually do something within our schools and our cities, even within our chambers, where people feel threatened and it causes anxiety or depression. So these are some topics that people need to be aware of, and we need to help our citizens that are needing the help. So it is Mental Health Awareness Month, but we do, as a collaborative group of people, need to come out and help our citizens that need the help. It is also Armed Forces Week, which kicked off on the second Saturday and is celebrated on the third Saturday of May. So in addition to peace officers, we do have our military, our current serving in the military, that we need to pay tribute to as well. May 18th is the upcoming LAFCO, and I am the person that represents Livingston, so the meeting is at 10 a.m. I do have the agenda before me. I also attended the Officer of the Year, which one of our officers was recognized last Wednesday. And on to other VFW. So some of the things that I'm asking that people just put on their calendar so that they are able to support our veterans. Our Memorial Day services will be held on the Tuesday at 5 at Memorial Park, where there is a time that we honor those that have passed. On May 27th, there will be a not a flag ceremony, but we will be putting flags on grave sites in Winton at 8:45. On the 28th, we'll also be doing that in Hillmar at 10. Santanella will be providing a ceremony at 9 a.m. On the 29th, Winton will have their ceremony at 10. And then, of course, Livingston will be on the traditional Memorial Day on the 30th at 5 p.m. at Memorial Park. So I am encouraging many of our residents to come out and support or volunteer to help put out flags on the grave sites. If you need any more information or the dates, you can ask me. I'll post them as well. There will be a Lions meeting, so we are currently seeking members, and we are going to be recognizing new members this year. That'll be tomorrow night. Also, in Merced, there is an organization helping one woman. This is where members throughout the county come together and they help to provide needs to a particular specific woman. Tomorrow night we will be assisting the mother of the young boy that had passed from the rock and jump. Our Mercado for the Merced County Hispanic Chamber of Commerce was held on, well, the first Thursday of the month, and that date slips my mind, maybe it was the 4th. Yes, May 4th. We got rained out, so we're going to do a redo. It'll be May 25th, and it is, we asked vendors to come out, we have entertainment, and it is a great thing to come out and witness and be a part of. So there is going to be a redo for our Mercado night at 6 p.m. on May 25th. And that's all. Thank you.
Councilmember Soto, that May 30th, 2 p.m. at Memorial Park?
Yes. That'll be our local post, 8327.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you. There was no mosquito abatement meeting today. It is being scheduled for next week. And as far as Councilman Soto added, I know that you attended the Officer of the Year. Thank you very much. I'd like to congratulate Officer Coleman he was our Livingston Police Department Officer of the Year. A very hardworking individual. And other than that, that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Part of my activities, I just want to say thank you to everyone that participated on May 2nd at our community roundtable in regards to the trap, neuter, and release program that PD and the code enforcement officer is working on. We had great feedback from the community. Great support, and thank you for everyone that attended and that actually volunteered to participate in this new TNR program that the City of Livingston will be releasing soon. On May 5th, I was able to participate and attend and volunteer. I wasn't planning on being the DJ for that day. Their other equipment didn't work. There was a malfunction, and so we had to make it work. Thankfully, we had a backup, and I ended up being the DJ that day at the Livingston High School Multicultural Festival. It's an event that always takes place every year, and the gym was packed. There was not enough seats for everyone attending, so it was great to attend, and hopefully you guys can attend next year. The following day, May 6th, we had the Livingston High School Festival of Bands band review, second annual band review. It was well attended, and we also had the opportunity to volunteer there. On May 9th to the 12th, we traveled to the One Voice trip to Washington. This was my first time attending. And prior to attending, we participated in other training workshops and in preparing for this trip. It was 2 full days of meetings from 8 o'clock in the morning to about, ending up with a dinner with different agencies at about 8:30 p.m. And so it was a full day and lots of walking because we had to travel from one department office to another. And the one thing that I learned about in this trip is that it's not just about attending this one trip, but actually about doing follow-up and continue doing the work, because things don't get done in just one trip. Thankfully, we had good conversations with some of the department heads, and we're gonna need to continue those communications and those conversations in order to continue and figure out how we can ask for more money to be able to do the things that we need to do here in the city. And primarily, one of our main focuses was funding for our water infrastructure for the water treatment plant. And it was great to hear that out of the agencies that attended, with the One Voice being a total of 7 agencies, Livingston was the only one that had some funding coming from one of the agencies, being USDA, and so even though it is something that has been in the process, but it was good to hear that it's actually coming. It's on the way. So we were really excited, and this is work that has been going on for a long time. It's not work that gets done in one day. So me attending this trip, those meetings, it means that I have to continue working and continue communicating with those department heads and looking for other opportunities in the future of how we can get more funding for the city of Livingston and its residents. That was from the 9th to the 12th. On May 15th, actually yesterday, it seems like a long time ago, but it was actually yesterday. It was the first day for Music in the Park. If you have not had a chance to attend Music in the Park, which is every Monday except the 30th, which is going to be on Tuesday, you're missing out. So make sure that you make some time at 6 o'clock. I mean, they start at 6 o'clock sharp. I was late. I was there like at 6:02, and they were already starting. So, but I have an excuse because I was helping, carrying things to fundraise for one of the school groups, school clubs. But anyways, it's fun, and it's about 2 hours of music. There's vendors, there's hot dogs, there's candy, there's a lot of vendors now. So make sure you make some time and bring your lawn chair, and it's fun. Bring the family. Every Monday until mid-June, June 15 or something like that. Anyways, on this next coming Sunday, May 21st, we do work on Sundays. So the United Farm Workers is coming to Memorial Park, and they're going to be having a food box distribution event. They're going to have food enough for up to 500 people. And the event is going to go on from 10 in the morning to 1 p.m. or until supplies last. Make sure that you pass the word, the message, and everyone in the community is welcome. So just show up, and there's going to be some information tables there, and it is this next Sunday starting at 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. And then on May 30th, which is Tuesday, here in the chambers, the Fresno Hispanic Foundation is going to be here from 4:30 to 7 o'clock, and it's going to be providing resources and information for businesses and residents on how to apply for loans, for grants, on how to register their nonprofits. If there are local groups that are wishing to register as a nonprofit, there will be information here. And the area president for Wells Fargo will be here providing information and bringing some additional resources. And there's going to be food. So bring the kids. You know that we got to have food, in order to, if we want people to attend, because that way you don't have to cook and prepare dinner. So just come on down, bring the family, bring the neighbors. This is also on May 30th. And even though it seems like, here in California, we still have a lot of snow up in the mountains, and it looks like we're going to have a lot of water coming down soon. I think that we should still be mindful and still continue to do and have water conservation. I think it's very important, just because we have a good amount of snow and water for 1 year, it doesn't mean that it's going to be there forever. We want to think ahead. We want to think about the next upcoming years, and we want to still be mindful and consider water conservation. This year, I was not able to attend the Police Officer of the Year event, but I want to congratulate everyone that was celebrated, and especially one of our own Livingston PD Detective, Taylor Coleman. Congratulations. And that's it. Thank you. All right, moving forward. So now next we have Ms. Soto. You had a question about item number 3. City Treasurer's Investment Report.
If we can have a little bit of background of what this is a placeholder for, what? Thank you.
Yeah, council member. So I'll just read out the requirement per the city's ordinance. And it does say that by law, the treasurer must issue a monthly report to the chief executive officer and legislative body of the city showing the type of investment, institution, date of maturity, amount of deposit, current market value for all securities with a maturity of more than 12 months, rate of interest, and other relevant data that may be requested. And that's the monthly report required of the treasurer. So we did create a placeholder. That's item number 3. To have that report provided to the mayor and the council. And then in addition to that, in the B section of the ordinance 1-13-11, the treasurer shall prepare an annual report for review with the legislative body showing average daily funds invested by portfolio, interest earned, portfolio yield, and average life. The report will include yields on the comparable portfolios for comparison purposes. Other topics for discussion will include the general condition of the portfolio, outlook for future interest rates, and plan strategy for executing investment transactions. Such reviews and evaluations should result in a uniform portfolio administration policy. It does appear that this hasn't been done in a number of years, not that it's, the current treasurer's fault. It just seems like there's been a little bit of a history of not having these items here. So we do want to make sure that we're adhering to the law as well as our ordinances. So we did create that section in the agenda to allow those reports to be provided to the mayor and the council.
So to be clear, this is a placeholder for our elected city treasurer, correct?
That's correct.
Council, any other questions in regards to this item? Okay, I'm going now for public comment. Any comment on the phone? Any comment in the chamber? Bringing it back to the dais. So this is just information, right? All right, okay, thank you. We're moving forward. Consent agenda. Items on the consent calendar are considered routine and non-controversial and will be enacted by one vote, unless separate action is requested by the city manager or city council member. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless members of the city council or city manager request the specific items to be removed. Council, what is your wish?
Mr. Mayor, before
Yes.
we begin, I have a question.
I'm sorry, can you say that again?
I have a question on one of the items real quick. I don't need to pull it, just a quick question.
On which item?
It was the item number 10. I'm sorry. Yeah, the pyro, I'm sorry, yeah, that's right, 10, okay. Yeah.
Number 10?
Is there. The one we had in the agenda is not the one that was shown as amended, so I just want everybody to be aware of it. And so, I just want everybody to, that was the public knowledge that there is an amended,
Ligo, can you provide?
so,
So I can just provide some context for that, Mayor. There was an old version of the staff report that was included in the backup, and so staff did provide the correct staff report so that you have that. I believe we did include the language of the change from the previous version to the new version, just so that the council has that.
yeah, I just wanted everybody to know that we did have, I'm sure everybody saw it, but that we did have the amended. So if there aren't any questions, I'd like to make the motions to approve items 4 through 11, which includes item 10 as the amended.
I do have a question, or maybe just for clarification on item number 11, which is the resolution adopting City of Livingston Master Employee Salary Schedule for the water, wastewater manager, and lifeguard position. In the staff report, there is the wording that we're approving is highlighted in yellow. I just want to confirm that is what so that the council is also aware that the item or the section and information highlighted in yellow is what's being approved, and that nothing else has changed in the salary schedule.
Mayor, and if I could just make a comment, we did put some operative language in the resolution that only authorized the changing of those two positions that are listed in the staff report. We wanted to be transparent, and we wanted to make it clear that we didn't want to have the council review every single position to make sure that it was in line with the previous salary schedule, so it's really just those two positions, Mayor.
Thank you. Any questions, council? All right, so Mayor Pro Tem, can you repeat your?
Yes, I will, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. I'll make the motion to approve items 4 through 11 on the consent calendar with the item 10 as the amended staff report.
Thank you. So we have a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
So we have a first by Mayor Pro Tem and a second by Councilmember Roth. Roll call, please.
Roll call, Councilmember Roth,
Yes.
Councilmember Mann,
Yes.
Councilmember Soto,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Samra,
Yes.
Mayor Moran.
Yes.
Motion approved by a vote of 5-0.
Thank you. Next, we have public hearings. Item number 12, resolution approving conditional use permit number 2022-01 and approved site plan and design review application number 2022-02 to develop a two-story single-family dwelling on an undersized parcel in the R2 zoning district on property located at 1547 F Street, Livingston, California, APN number 024-173-013.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, members of the audience. Miguel Galvez, Contract Planner. For the city, the item before you is consideration of conditional use permit application 2022-02 and site plan design review application 2022-02. It's a request to develop a single-family home by applicant Juan Maldonado. The project site is located on the north side of F Street. just west of Fifth Street, as you mentioned, 1547 F Street. The subject property is outlined in yellow on the aerial there in front of you. The subject site is mostly vacant and is surrounded by properties that are developed with single-family and multifamily dwellings, as can be seen on the aerial there. Looking at the project specifically, the project has a small storage shed located at the northwest part of the property. It has an entrance curb there off of F Street. It has a concrete slab that serves as a driveway to the property to the east. The property in yellow and the property to the east are owned by the applicant, and they use a joint driveway to access F Street. The property contains a wood fencing along the western property line, a brick and wrought iron fence along F Street. When it comes to land uses, for the purpose of the general plan on the left side, a project site now outlined in red, along with surrounding properties to the west, north, and east, have a general plan designation of MD, medium density residential. The properties to the south across F Street are designated as LD, low density residential. For the purposes of zoning, the subject site and surrounding properties to the west, north, and east are zoned R2, medium density residential. The properties to the south across F Street are zoned as R1, low family residential. As I mentioned, the property fronts on F Street, as can be seen on this map. It's a substandard lot. It measures 53 feet wide by 84 feet in depth and totals approximately 4,390 square feet. The minimum lot size in the R2 zone property is 6,500 square feet. This property in red was developed a long time ago, and under current standards that would not be allowed, but this was allowed at the time that was created. Full street dedication and frontage improvements have already been provided along F Street there. As I mentioned, the whole property there in blue is owned by the applicant. There's just two individual parcels there. Here are some pictures of the project site, views along the alleyway, views across the street on Fifth Street. Here's a look in the interior of the property. As I mentioned, it's vacant. There's fencing. There's a small storage shed. Views across F Street to the south and across Fifth Street once again. Looking at the proposal more specifically, the applicant proposes to develop a two-story single-family dwelling consisting of 3,282 square feet. It will have an attached two-car garage. The proposed dwelling will include 4 bedrooms, 5 baths, a patio terrace at the rear or the north of the property. As I mentioned, the existing drive approach is planned to be enlarged and serve both parcels currently owned by the applicant. I want to illustrate the area in blue is the patio terrace. It's not two-story, but the two-story portion of the building is the area in purple. The area in yellow is the joint driveway that exists, but will continue to be used by the property to the east. The applicant has submitted a landscape plan. It will be reviewed to make sure it meets drought-tolerant plants. Those will be reviewed to make sure it meets our model water efficiency landscape ordinance during the building permit process. So that's the landscape plan. Looking at the structures, the first floor, there's a living room, a dining room, a kitchen, 1 bedroom, 2 bathrooms, and a 2-car garage. The property, on the image to the east, that's the second floor. There's 3 bedrooms, a loft, a laundry room, 4 bathrooms, a recreation room, and a terrace. Both the master bedroom and the recreation room will have access to the terrace, which also is used as a patio on the first floor. Looking at the elevations, the exterior of the building, design features include an entrance porch at the front. It'll have tile accents on the elevations. It will include exterior lighting, a tile roof, and stucco walls. Here's some other images. The one in the back, you can see the terrace, the patio there, and how it looks on the side. issues. The only issue that came up had to do with the applicant's desire to maintain the driveway access to the adjacent property that serves the property at 856 5th Street. This can be maintained through a recorded access easement, which the applicant fully supports. So it was a minor issue, but it's something that's easily resolved and addressed, and it's something that we'll be able to exercise. Here's a picture of the driveway that's currently used, the parking lot. They want to continue to use that. Again, this is using a shared approachway that fronts on F Street. All development projects need to be evaluated for consistency with the city's general plan. Staff has identified general plan goals, policies, and objectives where the project has been found to be consistent with the 1999 general plan. Those are listed here and in the staff report. We look at consistency with the land use element, the housing element. The subject site is proposing to be developed at a density of 15 units per acre, which is consistent with the density for that property. In terms of meeting our housing element goals, which is the next one here, this is actually will help develop a current vacant property. It will also provide housing for large households. And these are some of the goals that are identified in the housing element to help meet our regional housing needs. So the staff report and these items identify how our general plan is being satisfied by the proposal. In terms of zoning ordinance and CEQA compliance, the project must be evaluated for compliance with the city's zoning ordinance. The property is subject, is zone R2, as I mentioned earlier, and has to meet those development standards consistent with setbacks, densities, parking, landscaping, storm drainage requirements. Staff is of the opinion that in spite of the property being small or substandard, the design, the height, the development intensity is consistent with the R2 development standards, and the project is consistent with the development in the vicinity. During the project referral process, we received a comment from the city, a letter from the city engineer recommending 17 conditions of approval. Those have been incorporated into the proposed resolutions. In terms of environmental review under CEQA, the proposed project is eligible for 2 categorical exemptions. One is for new construction of no more than 4 buildings, or 4 dwellings, excuse me. The other, and it can be exempt under CEQA as infill development. If approved, the notice of exemption citing these 2 sections will be filed with the Merced County Clerk Recorder's Office. The city's zoning matrix table identifies a use permit is required for development of a single-family home in the R2 zoning. And so the use permit was required in this case. Approval of use permit requires specific findings that need to be met. Here are 4. Pages 291 and 292 of the council's agenda provide information on how those findings can be met. This item was considered by the Planning Commission on March 14, 2023. The Planning Commission considered the proposed project. The commissioners asked questions about whether the project met setback requirements, about where the trash totes or trash cans would be placed for pickup, and what the city can do to prevent the creation of new standard lots. Staff responded that all setbacks are met, that trash totes will be picked up along the alley, that all new residential developments will have to meet the current minimum lot size of a standard of 6,500 square feet, so we won't be creating new substandard lots with any new development. Staff did not receive any public correspondence on this proposal, and one person from the public spoke in favor of the project during the Planning Commission meeting. This evening, staff and the Planning Commission recommend the following 3 items: that the council conduct a public hearing and to adopt a resolution of approving conditional use permit application 22-01 and site plan design review application 20-22-002, subject to the findings and conditions approved. Conditions of approval included in the staff report and in the resolutions. That concludes my report. I'm happy to respond to questions. The city engineer is also here to respond to any questions that may arise.
Council, any questions? So, Miguel, I remember I attended that planning commission meeting. And I think you already covered this, but just for clarification, normally, I think the biggest thing in this project is the shared driveway, right? And I know that it's owned by the family, and at that moment, at the planning commission meeting, was that it was not the intent to divide it at all, or, but thinking about the future, what if it was ever needed to be divided into two separate lots where driveway access what would happen with the driveway access to it?
Presently, there are two lots. There are two individual lots, so that can be sold separately. The zoning code requires that each parcel have access to a street. Each parcel does have access to a street. The current property will have access off to F Street. The property to the east conceivably can be, they can access S3 through this reciprocal access easement that would be recorded. It will run with the property for the life of the property. And so this is something that the property owner is in support of. One of the challenges that occurs is for the property to the east there is that it was developed and the driveway that served it is no longer in use. And so it's kind of become very difficult to add additional driveway, if you will. So it makes sense for them to kind of joint use the driveway and kind of save space. But to answer your question more directly, the reciprocal access easement will have to be recorded, and it'll protect the rights to access, to provide access to both properties, despite who owns it.
Okay, perfect. Any other questions?
I had the same on the conditional use. It's item number 12 because of the wording. Because it does say that residence is not allowed by the standard-specific section of 3.6A of the City of Livingston Improvement Standards, that it's not allowed. So, but what you're saying is that, and the wording here, it says that the applicant could construct. Now, he doesn't have to, right? We're not asking him to, even though that he feels that he's in agreement based on the, because I was at that planning commission meeting as well, that they would or could have access. I don't understand what the reciprocal, if you could, break it down further or provide it. It's just going to be a shared driveway, even though it's not allowed?
I'm sorry, let me be more clear. So in the current property right now, they do have access to the street. They will be recording a legal document, an instrument, if you will, that will give the neighboring property permission to use part of that property to access their own property. So you got parcel A, and so they'll be able to go onto that property. It's an access easement. Cross over it to park their car on their property to the east. Should one of these parcels sell, let's just say this parcel that's closer to the alley, the subject parcel sells, this access easement will continue to serve to provide vehicle access to the property to the east. What makes it durable is that it's a recorded instrument, it's a recorded easement that runs with the land in spite of who owns it, so they can sell it, and so you will always have access to both properties. Now, if you look at the property in the corner, if let's just say they sell the property, they don't get along, and the property at the corner can still, depending on whether there's room, they can provide a driveway to access the street from either from 5th Street or F Street. It's just going to be very tight. But this is how properties were developed at that time, and and they're kind of making do with what they have. But the applicants are here, and they can kind of speak to that issue.
Yeah, we're not planning to sell.
Can you,
Hello, my name is Jorge Maldonado. I'm Juan Maldonado's brother. So what we're planning to do here is just build this house to use the property, the empty lot, and make purpose of it. And this shared driveway will assist access to both properties. But we have no intention of selling the property.
If I can just, to make a clarification, the lot is, now, the way that the lot exists is not up to the city standards, but it was when the lot was parceled out and the way that it existed. So it's what's called a non-conforming use. So it was parceled out for residential purpose. That's why it has a separate parcel number. And even though the plans, the city specifications require separate driveways, because of the unique circumstance and the non-conforming use of the lot, the city can grant the shared driveway under the conditions required here, where there has to be a recorded access easement so that that access cannot be cut off.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
any additional questions, council? All right, so let me go out for public comment. Public comment on the phone. Is there any public comment on the phone? Any public comment in the chamber?
Rodrigo Espinosa, Livingston. Well, one of the comments is that, under real estate, I'm not a realtor or an attorney, but, I read all the time regarding easements or permanent easements that are made on properties or agreements, even parcels that don't have access because they're in the back of another property. Usually the front property owner, they sell the permanent easement through the property so they can have access to the back. But under that agreement, nobody can put a permanent lock because they already sold the right. So if this property will want to sell one day, it doesn't matter, because as long as they have an agreement with each other, that nobody can block it. If somebody blocks it, either one can call a tow truck and remove the car out of the way, because that's an access for both properties. That's just my opinion, and I don't know that the attorney can probably review that as well. I just see that. But in the future, I think that, as long as we don't have a general plan update and we're not expanding yet, I think we as a county, as city council here in the city, we have to adapt to smaller lots. In my mind, or divide lots that might be smaller. Cities are becoming, like I say, you don't want to expand too much into farm ground in the future. You might want to make smaller lots. The city of Merced, other cities have approved really small lot sizes, 2,500 square foot, 3,500 square, 4,500 square foot. And I know that I can't remember what the city is, 6,000 or 7,000 square foot lots. But some, are 10,000 square foot lots, but they meet 50-foot width in the front. And if they want to divide, they should be able to, because like I said, there's still going to be 5,000 or 6,000 square foot, or there might be more than 5,000, but they have more than 100 feet in length. And in the past, all these 20 years that I've been here in Livingston, I've seen the city council, the planning commission deny permits to subdivide a property which had 50-foot frontage lots by more than 120, and they had over 6,000 square foot lot, but they didn't meet every council has its decision to say yes or no on division of the lot line or the lot size. But this is people's homes. People want to build their homes, and it's better to approve a home on a nice lot, and then rather than not having that lot produce any property taxes in the future. I know some lots that were denied here, and those lots are still empty and nobody's built, and somebody was ready to build there in the past, and the planning commission denied and the council denied that permit. So I'd rather see a family live there in a nice house near her home, and like I said, and that rather than empty lot where homeless or garbage will be dropped off. So those are the things that the council will learn and hopefully adapt to a smaller lot size where, like I said, we just want people to.
Okay.
Oh, thank you.
All right. Thank you. Any other public comment in the chamber? Okay, bringing it back to the dais. Council? Questions, comments, suggestions, recommendations?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
if nobody has any more questions, I'd like to make the motion to adopt the resolution approving the conditional use permit number 2022-01 to adopt the city council resolution approving the site plan and design review application to develop a two-story single dwelling on an undersized parcel R2, zoning district property located at 1547 F Street.
Thank you. We have a motion on the floor by Mayor Pro Tem Summer. Is there a second? I'll go ahead and second that. Roll call, please.
A roll call, Councilmember Roth,
Yes.
Councilmember Mann,
Yes.
Councilmember Soto,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Sammer,
Yes.
Mayor Moran.
Yes.
Motion approved by a vote of 5-0.
Thank you. Next item number 13, waive the second reading and adopt ordinance of the City Council of the City of Livingston, amending Livingston Municipal Code, Section 1.4.3, General Criminal Penalties of Chapter 4, General Penalties of Title I, Administrative, and Section 7.4.16, Administrative Penalties of Chapter 7.4, Fireworks, of Title VII, Fire Regulations and Department of Public Safety to establish administrative penalties for the use of illegal aerial fireworks.
Thank you, Mayor. This is the second reading of the ordinance that the council introduced and passed for first reading 2 council meetings ago. To refresh the council on what this ordinance does is it raises the administrative penalties for violations of local health and building codes, generally for the city's local laws. And so they don't pertain specifically to fireworks alone. They pertain to violations of any health or building codes of the city. And that is because it is a higher penalty for protection of the public. It's to further deter people from violating codes that are specifically for the protection of the city's public. Additionally, what this does is it implements a personal use fireworks guidelines. So for aerial fireworks and other types of the more dangerous fireworks, it applies those fines and sets out the regulations of use and prohibitions on private use of those more dangerous types of aerial fireworks. So staff's recommendation is, there have been no changes to this, by the way. The council introduced it just as is last time. No updates to this. And so the staff recommends that the council waive the second reading and adopt the ordinance as written.
Thank you. Council, any questions?
I just had
Yes, go ahead.
a question on Section 3. I know that because it says in this section, if anything, a clause, phrase is to be invalid or unconstitutional, I mean, when I'm looking at that, my first question was like, well, hasn't this been reviewed by our legal team?
This is a standard provision that should be in all of your ordinances, and it is just in case there is any legal challenge to any wording. I think the most common constitutional legal challenge to an ordinance that has been thoroughly reviewed by legal would be something to the effect of ambiguity, right? That it doesn't properly notify the public of what the regulations are, the prohibitions are, or what the penalties are. And so let's say that they picked out one sentence of it and said that this is unconstitutional, it didn't put me on notice, and this is just an example, then the court can strike that one sentence and the remainder of the ordinance would still remain in full force and effect, right? Because so if you don't have this, what we call a savings clause, it could render any type of minor challenge to one portion of the ordinance or one code section could render the entire ordinance unconstitutional and invalid.
Thank you. Council, any additional questions, comments, suggestions? Okay, going now for public comment. Any public comment on the phone? Coming back to the chamber. Any public comment in the chamber? Bringing it back to the dais. Council, what is your wish? I move to waive the second reading and adopt ordinance of the City Council of the City of Livingston, amending Livingston Municipal Code, Section 1.43, General Criminal Penalties of Chapter 4, General Penalties of Title 1, Administrative and Section 7.4.16, Administrative Penalties of Chapter 7.4, Fireworks of Title 7, Fire Regulations, and Department of Public Safety to establish administrative penalties for the use of illegal aerial fireworks. So we have a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
We have a first by Mayor Moran and a second by Councilmember Roth. Roll call, please.
Roll call. Councilmember Ross?
Yes.
Councilmember Mann?
Yes.
Councilmember Soto?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Samra?
Yes.
Mayor Moran?
Yes.
Motion approved by a vote of 5-0.
Thank you. Next, we have discussion and potential action items. Item number 14, resolution approving the restated joint powers agreement of the Merced County Association of Governments and authorizing the City of Livingston mayor to sign the agreement.
So Mayor, I believe the council did hear this, I believe in the second meeting of April, and the council requested that staff bring this back the second meeting in May. So we brought this back to the council for discussion and potential action. Mayor, thank you.
Thank you, Council. So I don't know if you had an opportunity to look at this item or ask additional questions to staff or anybody else. But as it stands personally, and this is just my opinion, I have read it again a couple of times. I have talked to a few people in regards to this item. I still think that there are two items at least of concern to me, and one of them is the term, which normally since MCAG was created in 1967, I believe, the term for the agreement has been for 10 years. Now the proposed time is, the proposed term for this JPA is 30 years. While talking to someone, you know, they mentioned this is like when you belong to a union and you are negotiating for an increase. Normally, your increase that you're asking for or negotiating is either for a year, 2 years, or 3 years, so that in 3 years you can renegotiate again because cost of living increases, and we don't know what the cost of living is going to be. And what they share is like as if it was. This is very similar as if I was negotiating a union contract for 30 years, meaning that in 30 years, I will not be allowed to do, to negotiate an increase in salary. So, which at that time, you know, it did make sense. So I'm still concerned about the 30 years. Some of us are going to be here for another year and a half. Some of you guys are going to be here for, you know, up to 4 years. who's going to be here in 30 years or in 10 years. So anybody that is here between now and then is not going to have any power to negotiate anything that they want to do. It just kind of, the way I see it is kind of taking the power away from small agencies like ourselves. But then again, that is my point of view. And then the other one is the mediation versus arbitration. Currently, since 1967, it has been, the clause has been about having an arbitration whenever two agencies are not in agreement, and they try to negotiate, and if not, they go to an arbitrator. This new proposed changes, they go to, am I right? Yes, to arbitration. And the new proposed is to go, instead of arbitration, to go to mediation. And so even though there are some other concerns, but to me, those are the two main ones. And I don't want to take the power away from whoever's going to be here in 10 years from this contract. And although I do understand, and I don't think it is our fault. I don't think it's anybody's fault that is sitting here to be sitting here now and negotiating this agreement, because this agreement should have been brought to us or to the council a year ago. And our previous representative at MCAG did not bring this JPA to that council, and myself and Council Member Soto were here a year ago in this council, and this item was never brought to us. We shouldn't have to be here now, but we are. And so now it should have been the responsibility of whoever the representative was to bring this JPA agreement to us, and it didn't happen. But all I know is I'm not going to go back and figure out what happened. All I know is this JPA is before us, and I don't want to take the power away from whoever sits here in 10 years to be able to negotiate, whether or not in 10 years from now the council at that time agrees to continue moving forward, then allow them that opportunity. But things change in 10 years, and we want to be able to have the small agencies like ourselves have the leverage to negotiate or change or make suggestions. And I do believe that our agency should have, because MCAG is about equity. MCAG is about that every agency should be represented equally, and whatever this council decides, once I go back to as the MCAG representative, I will do whatever you want me to do, But that is my opinion. So, questions, comments? What do you guys want to do? And so there's a recommendation. This council can decide whatever you guys have in mind.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
The 30-year term is very long, and I do not agree with it either. What I propose is, and I don't know how many other cities have signed up or if they're in agreement with the 30 years, what have you, I would say the 10 years, that's what I would go back with, because as you stated, it doesn't give anyone else who's going to be sitting on this dais any chance. So that's where I stand on that.
Thank you. Anything else, council, before I go to public comment, citizen comment? Is there any citizen comments in regards to this item on the phone? Bringing it back to the chamber. Any citizen comments in the chamber? Bringing it back to the dais. Comments, suggestions? Yes.
Mayor, I just have a question, and it's more for the city attorney. Hypothetically, what happens if the council chooses not to approve this agreement and enter into this with MCAG? What potentially could happen?
So the current JPA agreement terminates by its own terms next month. If Livingston does not agree to the contract, so I guess the option would be to go back and say, look, on this, as from what I'm understanding, the one sticking point is really the term. Livingston will not sign on to this unless the term goes back to the 10 years. Then if the agreement terminates and all other entities are in agreement with the terms, they could form a new JPA without Livingston, and then Livingston would be subject to the county being in charge of the funding distributions and grant distributions, and MCAG deciding where the money goes for the city of Livingston without representation. That's kind of worst case scenario. We could go back and say Livingston won't sign on to this unless they put it back to a 10-year term, and we can see what they say. But I have brought this up at every single one of our negotiation sessions that I've been involved in since December, and there I can tell you that none of the other entities are agreeing on that sticking point. That just hasn't been something that anybody else wanted to jump on board with. There was expression of them not liking it either, but they certainly weren't going to not sign on over it. So I don't know how much weight it will have at the table.
So if I can just provide some additional information, based on the last revised agreement of 2020, I believe it is, one of the clauses says that the MCAG cannot be dissolved unless all participating agencies unanimously agree.
Right, but if Livingston does not want to, I mean, it terminates on its own, right? So any terms of that contract will no longer be effective, and I don't know if any of the other entities would go to this extreme, but they could file for a court-ordered dissolution based on the parties not being able to agree on the terms of the contract. So it's kind of we're in no man's land. It's unknown. No one has really stated what the implications of not entering into this agreement would be. There haven't been any conversations from the county or the other entities as far as what they would do to keep this going. So as you know, this JPA in general is very county driven. So I think that any action to be taken or how it's going to be decided this moves forward, if Livingston doesn't sign on, really has to be a discussion started by the county. I don't think they've anticipated it.
So can you explain that? So what you mean is that, so even for us to have a conversation, it has to be initiated by the county, not by us?
As far as the repercussions of not entering into the agreement, I mean, this JPA has really, this authority has been driven by the county. They have the most members on the board. It's the Board of Supervisors that really the obligations for the funding and the organization of everything that happens. If this agreement doesn't exist, it kind of falls back onto the county per state law. So it really has to be them, the county, who decides what occurs should this JPA agreement not be renewed.
So like you mentioned, there's gray area that I guess no one has been able to provide. I'm not sure if the question has been asked, and we just don't know what the answer was. But maybe we should ask that question, and because otherwise we're just trying to imagine maybe it's this, maybe it's that. Maybe we should have asked, or maybe we can ask and say, what would be the scenario if this happens? You know, I mean, and actually I believe that this. I might be wrong. I think this contract, the current JPA, expires either June 30th or July 19, or the new one becomes effective July 19, but there's a date of July 19. And I know for sure that the new contract, the language in this JPA is that if approved by all the agencies, then the new agreement would become effective July 19th.
Correct. So, yes, so the original contract, or the revised contract as it stands now, terminates July 18th, and this one would go into effect July 19th. I have asked the question of what happens. I have never received a clear response to that. I think following this meeting, if the council does not approve it today, perhaps I can get more of an answer as to what that means like when I go back.
So this question has been asked to who specifically?
The group as a whole. So we have group meetings with the general counsel for MCAG, the county council, and then the city attorneys for all the cities involved. And I have asked the question, and I think that it is potentially a bit of a legal conundrum under the circumstances. And so it hasn't been, I don't know that it has been seriously vetted by any of the attorneys.
And so maybe here's an opportunity to actually ask that question and then make sure that it's included, because I think it's important, maybe it needs to be included in the new JPA, because like you're saying, this is something that has never, I guess, been addressed or had to deal with, what if this scenario, and I think it's something important, and if it needs to be on this new JPA, even though it's for 30 years, but still, the proposal is for 30 years, but I think it's a legitimate concern, not concern, but something to consider. And I think it's very legitimate for us to have a question and to have a response to it, because otherwise, I'm not sure that I would feel comfortable trying to approve something or not without a definite response to a valid question or concern. But that's just my thought. Council?
So from what I understand, this 30-year term is beyond what we might serve here as the council now. But hearing what legal has said, that she's been on meetings and nobody seems to want to jump on board with us. We've got 3 Tuesdays before the next council, and then it's going to expire. Oh, well, wait, July. So we have, two council meetings before that to convince others to take a position with us. I'm just looking at that as being a part of MCAG and what could happen to us as our own individual city standing alone. So, and what we potentially might miss out on in the long run if we're not a part of this.
And I just want to emphasize something, and this is something that I said before. I do see the benefit of belonging to such an organization. I mean, I do see it, and I think as a group, we would have, MCAG would have more power to negotiate and all that. I see the benefit of that. I mean, that's without a question. But I think it's fair for us to have concerns, and I don't think I would be doing my due diligence if I was just being a sheep and following what everybody else is doing. If I didn't, But then again, that's just me. Other people make decisions for different reasons, whether it's political, whether it's for whatever reason, All I know that at this moment, as I sit on the dais, I am representing the city of Livingston. And then once you guys send me back to MCAG, once I'm there, then at that particular moment, I will represent your decision, and then I have to change my hat to MCAG director. But at this particular moment, I have to, this is one of the few times that when we have to negotiate between the city and MCAG, the priority is for Livingston.
I understand that, but I would rather you have a consistent seat at MCAG rather than just this one time you are representing us, so we would have that voice at the table rather than not, if we didn't. I mean, we're not, I don't want to consider us, what did you say, sheep? No. So if you're going on behalf of Livingston, I am hoping that you're going with our best interests as a city and fighting for what we need from all of the agencies, because you're going there representing us, using your voice, advocating for what Livingston needs, along with everybody else that is putting in their bids, and it's divvied up. I mean, that would be fair for all of our county. But I know that we want what Livingston wants, but we can't get what Livingston needs or wants if we're not there.
Council?
So, Mr. Mayor, you are a representative. What do you think the chances are, if we change this to 10 years, that the other jurisdictions will go along to change it?
Well, I mean, I cannot sit here and provide, what I think they might do or not, Once again, I know that there are council members, individual council members in other jurisdictions that have thought otherwise, but then again, it's what the majority decides. I guess, if we don't ask, we don't get. So I'm just, I don't know what to tell you,
Yeah.
All I know it's,
I understand your concerns. I understand Councilmember Roth's concerns. And I am 110% in agreement with you. You said if you don't ask, you can't get. But if we're asking for things that others may not, we know they're not going to give, then is there a point of asking?
it is for me. It is.
Okay.
But then again, I'm only one person, so.
No, I understand, and I'm just trying to think that making decisions for 30 years when I'll be 93 at the time, it's a long time. I get it. But then I'm also looking at and then I'm not sure what I'm going to make the final vote tonight, but I've had more success with the MCAG than I have with the county. I think nobody can disagree with that. Because, however, at the time I had asked that we continue this to this meeting, would you think that you can have a better solution for us at our next meeting?
Well, I don't know. I'm not Nostradamus, but, I know that we have at least a good couple of questions that have not been answered. But
do you would like, you have stated the questions, and I know Councilmember Roth has also stated the questions. Would you like for legal to ask those questions and bring us those answers?
Whatever this council wishes, whatever the majority wishes.
Well, I'm deferring to you, not because I'm sure we all want the answers, but I always go to the person that we've chosen to represent us. You are our primary representative on MCAG, so that's why I'm deferring to you that attends meetings at regulars. You know, I'm looking to you for general information and general guidance, and then ultimately we'll make our decisions, but you're the ones we go to for information.
Council, anybody else has any other opinions, comments?
I don't know.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, I think we heard almost before I respond to your question.
No, please.
But I think I want to give others an opportunity to provide feedback. I don't want it to make it seem like I'm, telling others what to do. But at the same time, maybe there's something I haven't heard. Maybe there's something that might change my mind. So, I know that I haven't had an opportunity to talk with any other directors about this. So maybe someone can say something that might change my mind and convince me and educate me and inform me of why, I should think a certain way or agree with something. But that is so far where I'm at. Anything else?
I believe we're stuck between a rock and a hard place. I'm in agreement in the sense that there's so much value in MCAG, for sure. With that said, although we've asked the questions, we haven't got an answer thus far, as Legal was mentioning a moment ago. So I'm sitting here, I'm really just taking it in myself, just kind of going around in circles. But I do understand your concerns and I do agree with them.
Mayor?
Yes.
I had another question for the city attorney. Let's say that the council provides direction to say, okay, 10 years. Would that require every other agency to approve a new agreement with a 10-year term and require them to agree to those terms via a new agreement?
Yes.
And so from a time perspective, and I think Councilmember Soto brought this up, and actually we do have a council meeting the 18th when the agreement is set to expire. So how fitting, right? So then that means that there would have to be that direction provided, a new agreement drafted up, and then all of those other agencies to approve that before the deadline of July 18th, which we know for us is 2 meetings in June, and then actually just probably a special meeting if the council wanted to discuss it in July, because the first meeting in July is the 4th of July. So that would create just some, in terms of timing, something that the council may want to think about too. So is that correct that it would require the other agencies to approve?
Yeah, I believe that, excuse me, if we wanted to go back and push for the 10 years, then we would also need to push for everyone to agree to some kind of extension to negotiate that. I just don't know. I mean, I guess it's possible to get it all done in that time frame, but it would be a real crunch for all of the agencies.
The second thing that I'll point out, and this was just an observation, and I know that the mayor briefly mentioned it, but the bulk of all of you are brand new to this council, so a lot of you weren't necessarily involved with these conversations when these negotiations probably initially started. So as Councilmember Mann mentioned, you all are in this difficult spot, but it's not any fault of the current council now, but you all are grappling with it because of the situation that you're in. So unfortunately, it's kind of like that timing part of it is, as council members and as mayors, you all are coming into this with kind of the dinner already being served, and you all didn't have any input on what was for dinner. And so that's kind of a really interesting, precarious situation that you all are in right now, trying to get acclimated and all of that.
Yeah. Mr. Mayor, I can give a experience, what happened to us in the past and experience with MCAG. The times and the dates kind of all fuzzy and wavy now, but we had a similar discussion some years ago where council had a difference of opinion to where we refused to pay our MCAG dues. I was still a member, but I could not vote on some things. There are things that are not part of the MCAG, that's like the wastewater, the land. There are some things that outside of the JPA you can deal with. At the time you could, but there are some things we couldn't. But it didn't take us long to realize the advantages too. So what I like to do is give us some extra time and give direction to legal to get us answers to the questions that we've asked. Based on those questions, I think we'll have to either vote this up or down at that point. And I don't think we need to really wait for legal, their next meetings. A question can be just, I don't know how legals would work. Maybe they can ask somebody, what are the questions. We don't have to wait for any type of next meeting. I don't know if they're having it, but questions can still be asked of MCNG council or whoever, So we can probably bring this back and then make our final decision.
So I'm thinking, because MCAG has its own legal advisor, shouldn't this question be going to them directly, because they are, instead of, I don't know. I mean.
Yeah, the question as far as what the repercussions of not agreeing to the revised agreement would go to MCAG's general counsel.
Yeah, because, I think everything should be based on our current agreement, which was agreed on 10 years ago, right? And the latest amendment was in 2020, I believe. So, maybe I guess if we can provide direction to ask those questions to MCAG's legal counsel, and what was your
Okay, what I was saying was, we have all asked some questions for legal to get answers back for us. And then, when is our next meeting in June? June 6th. Yeah, we'd like to bring this back with those answers in a staff report. And then from there, whatever decision we're going to have to make.
So is that a motion to table this item until,
Yeah, because last time, maybe I should have done this last time, but I didn't, was have asked those questions to be included in the staff report. I just wanted to give everybody more time to think about it. But maybe, and we got good questions, and I'm not trying to, so just bring it back our June 6th meeting with those questions answered, or whatever questions and answers we have at that point.
Was there more than one question? I had to push back on the 30-year term and the question of what happens, what's the repercussions of
Okay.
Livingston not signing on?
Yeah, I think, I don't think any legal BRs or any MCH or any at any level can tell us what other jurisdictions will do or not do. I don't think that's going to be fair to put anybody through. So the entire question becomes, if we don't approve, what is the next step? I think that's what we need to know. Because we can sit here and speculate, or dream that we're gonna put 10 years, everybody's gonna say, oh yeah, let's do it, I don't know. And as much as I hate it, but sometimes we're gonna have to make a decision.
I do have another question for legal. Did they explain the reasoning for the 30 years?
It aligns with the Measure V funding, so the Measure V is allocated for 30 years.
Thank you.
and then maybe this additional question could be asked, because I think there has been misinterpretation of that, because I believe that Measure V is a separate item, and regardless of whether or not you or an agency is part of MCAG, if taxes are being collected through this measure, that agency still needs to receive those taxes. And to say that Measure V, if you don't, once again, I'm not saying that us, but this is what I've heard from different people, that they've been told that if they don't belong to MCAG, if they don't sign this agreement, that they're not going to continue receiving Measure V funds. And I don't believe that to be correct.
No, Mr. Mayor, you are absolutely correct. Measure V was passed by the voters, and the allocations, everything is already predetermined. City would still get its allocation. What will happen, and this is what will happen, as MCAG, as you're fully aware, it decides on regional projects and decides on a lot of projects. If we're not at the table, who's going to speak on our behalf besides the county? Yeah, we want to put a roundabout. It's okay. I don't mean to, see, I got her to giggle finally. Okay, but anyway, say we want to put a roundabout. Well, who's going to go in there and give to MCAG says, put this through our other funding mechanism from these projects? Because a lot of times money is pulled from different sources to where money comes in, is allocated different portions for priority of the projects. We're not going to be able to be there. The previous projects, allocations and all that will definitely pass. And if there is a Measure Z down the road for something voters pass, that's going to be decided by the bonds anyway, or whatever is passed. That they can't buy through that. That's not where we're at. We're already participants in our landfills. We already have certain participations in the bus program. Those will continue at the previous level until new sources start up, and we'll not have voices there. That much I do know. So that's the point where we need to make a decision where do we want to be at that point?
So, good questions, I think, but at the same time, I think we're just speculating up to a certain point, but I think you're right. I think maybe we should table this item and then until we have more information and answers to our questions. So let's just take about 30 more seconds or so and think about any other questions that we might have, that we might want to have asked. But I think it is very important to make sure that we have that very clear, that and then again, maybe it was misinterpreted or misunderstood by other people in other agencies, but that is the message that I've been hearing. Not from everyone, like I said, it's just a couple of members, but that was the understanding. So I just want to be clear, and I think we should ask that question so we can have it in writing, and so that we can, once again, what happens afterwards, and I understand all that, but I think we just need to be clear. Any other questions? So, yes.
From what I understand, how Gopal had just painted this picture, and what we've been saying, we want a voice there, but if we're not agreeing to this one term, we may see ourselves out, and we are going to depend on the voice of our district supervisor to represent us at a county level.
No, it would be the 5 supervisors.
The board.
Yes.
But our city would be represented by our representative.
Incorrect. It would be, we'll be working directly with the county, all 5 supervisors.
So rather than have a seat at MCAG, we'd have someone at the Board of Supervisors to come and speak on our behalf, to fight for what we would want if nobody else is on board with.
I think that at this time we're just speculating, so I think it would be very helpful once we have those responses, and for us to figure out, instead, because right now if we're saying what if this, what if that, well, we don't know.
Correct, but I'm just setting up the scenario of what it would look like if we weren't there at MCAG.
Any other questions for legal to ask? Is that it? All right, so direction. So if I'm hearing you guys correctly, are we in agreement that we want to table this item for our next meeting?
That's correct.
Yeah, I'll pose the questions tomorrow. We'll see if I get an answer by the next meeting. I'll let Christopher and Monica and Mayor know, so we don't, we've got a little time, right?
Yeah. All right. Okay, so moving forward.
Just the direction to staff, and we got a consensus, so I think we're
All
good.
right, thank you. Council direction on future agenda items, anyone? Mr. Mann?
No, not at this time, sir.
Mr. Rott?
No, sir.
Ms. Soto? Mayor Pro Tem?
Yeah, just something to consider down the road. I had asked before, and I don't have an exact date, but I still would appreciate a joint City Council Planning Commission workshop and setting our priorities, what we think is important for the city, that, sometime down the road.
I guess strategic planning session.
Yeah, something like that, maybe just so the planning commission and the council, everybody knows what everybody's kind of thinking. That way, it gives them a general idea, instead of sitting there and wonder what we should do as a city. But it kind of puts everybody on that same page a little bit, or closer to the same page. I don't think I want everybody on the same page, but we know we want difference of opinions. We want people to bring in, different views, but at least a kind of a general direction.
Thank you. All right, so we are to adjourn our meeting at 9:29.
Hey, Monica, if you move to Livingston, you'll be home already. I'm just getting my second opinion. What are you talking about? You stay. Hey, you remember this, when you guys used to go to a midnight?
No, I don't remember.